Hi, everyone. How's it going? Happy Friday Eve. Oh, my goodness. So close. Oh, Friday. Yeah. Tomorrow. Don't get too excited. Okay. How's it going, everyone? This is Jennifer Wadella. She's going to be giving our tech talk today. She is the lead Angular developer at Bitovi. And, oh, man, she is amazing. Okay, here we go. Good. Expectations are going to be set here by the time I'm done.
Oh, boy.
No, I'm kidding. No, she's amazing. So who here has heard of Casey Witt? Kansas City Women in Technology? Okay, a few people, yeah. I wish that more of the ladies had raised their hand.
Talk to us after.
Yeah, definitely talk after. Okay, so Kansas City Women in Technology is a not-for-profit organization that Jennifer here started. She started Casey Witt, she founded it, she built the programs that are a part of Casey Witt, like Coding and Cocktails, which is amazing. We also have Coding and Cupcakes, Coder Dojo. There are so many programs that are under the Casey Witt umbrella. Check them out. Some of them are open to male mentors. We also always need female mentors as well. So this is Jennifer. And she's going to give us a talk about work-life balance.
Work-life blank balance, but I'll tell you a little bit about that.
Work-life blank balance.
Is that on? I don't hear anything. Hello? Maybe? Which one are you? I am? Yeah. Okay, cool. Normally there's a little bit more feedback. How y'all doing? It just got like really quiet. Post-lunch comas? A little too much Chinese food? Yeah, okay, me too. We are going to be talking about what I like to call hacking a work-life blank balance to take over the world. Clicker, come back to me. You worked 20 seconds ago. There we go. Okay. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at @OMG@Sveti. I do warn people that I live tweet The Bachelor, Bachelorette on Monday nights. Sorry, not sorry. It's my jam. You can deal with it. But as it was stated, I'm the lead Angular developer at a consulting company called Bitovi, which means I do everything from going on site to companies and training them how to use Angular better, as well as creating a lot of content or doing actual consulting and dev work on projects. I'm the founder of Kansas City Women in Technology, which we'll talk a little bit about more, an international speaker. So I've probably done about 20 conferences so far this year all across the world. I don't even know how many talks across those conferences I've done so far, so a big part of my life. And anybody drink kombucha in here? No? Look it up later, it's amazing. But I brew kombucha on the side, that's my current hobby, and I just started brewing Jun, if you're familiar. It's a different kind of kombucha, so some hobbies and fun stuff there. But the point of this talk is how many people feel like this on a daily basis? Yeah? Relate a little, trying to keep up with everything, especially in the technology industry where I like to joke a JavaScript framework comes out more often than I get my period. Like, that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. And we don't want to be feeling like this. This is not how we're productive. What we really want to be feeling like is this. Yeah. I was hoping to get a little more of hype for the women's team. Come on. There we go. That's the kind of response I'm looking for. All right. So what is this idea of work-life blank balance? You've probably heard of work-life balance, but I like to talk about it in this context because I've got a lot of things that I'm really passionate about that don't necessarily line up with my job. And I feel like a lot of people are in that same boat. Especially in the technology industry, we're really fortunate to be really excited about the work we do. And you may be contributing to open source projects or something that you're doing outside of work hours that you're really passionate and excited about. So this talk is about how do we balance that idea between our work, our life, and our passion areas. Okay, my clicker keeps dying. That's annoying. All right, so the idea of work is your trade and mostly how you create a paycheck. This is what you're doing on a day-to-day basis to make sure you're able to pay your mortgage, pay your bills, keep a roof over your head. This is going to include things like your job execution, skill upgrading, managing other people if you're in some sort of leadership role, meetings, emails, training, paperwork, filling out timesheets, barf. All that fun stuff. Your life, everything you're doing when you're not at work. And so this is going to be things like household management, making sure your bills are paid, dealing with, keeping your house in order, that kind of things. Financial planning, because our generation is so unbelievably screwed that there's not going to be any money for us to fall back on. So how do we plan for that? If you have a family, making sure you're getting your kids taken care of, transported to games. If you've got, parents that you need to be taken care of or something like that. Your health. Something you should be thinking about in your life, and I see a couple faces going, oh, forgot about that one. Sleep. Social life, heaven forbid that we want to have a social life, right? And hobbies. And then finally, relaxation. So these are all the things that we're going to put in that, what I call life bucket. And I want to call this out. Hobbies, I'm going to put in the life bucket. And hobbies I consider very different from your passion project, because hobbies are something that you do just for fun. It's not something that drives you or motivates you to be better. I brew kombucha for fun, not because I want to sell it, not because I want to like compete. And I don't even know if there are kombucha brewing competitions, but I'm sure there are, like Rule 54, right? Oops, wrong rule. No? No? Okay, a couple chuckles. I was like, crap. Thought that joke would land. So hobbies, very different from your passion project, because this is something that drives you to be better. This is something that drives you to be amazing, whether it's writing better code, being a better leader, running different events, or whatever your passion may be. For me personally, I do a lot of volunteering. You might be interested in something like blogging, where you're trying to build some sort of brand. Maybe it's public speaking, figuring out how to get up in front of audiences and help present content. You might have a side hustle, that really brilliant, app idea that you have. You might manage a nonprofit. I wouldn't recommend it. Just stay away from like the legal entity and just run a user group and you'll be fine. Maybe you participate in a competitive sport. I heard there were a couple rock climbers in here. That's kind of a fun thing to do. Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you for the feedback, sir. Again, open source project contribution. Maybe you have this project that you really want to see take off and you're really dedicated to making this a better thing. Your blank is not your hobby. This is your passion area. My blanks personally are obviously public speaking, and part of that is me getting up in front of audiences, making sure I'm creating content that matters, finding a good way to relate that to people, and these are things that take improvement, that I'm constantly growing and trying to figure out how to get better at. In 2018, I did about 22 conferences all over the world. This year, I think I'm slated for like 30, and that's not even factoring in whatever is going to happen in November and December. I run this nonprofit, Kansas City Women in Technology. I founded it in 2013, but 2014, we had about 2 programs, 32 events, and 8 leadership members. Today, we have about 7 programs, 60 events a year, and around 60 leadership team members. That number is flexed a little bit as we do programs like NG Girls and Django Girls. And I just realized I have no power. There's no power. Sorry, I'm like being awkward. I just looked at my power thing and I was like, all right, we'll see how far I get away on 20% battery. So my passion area. If I were to plot what my life looks like, it would be something like this. And I'm going to kind of reference this just as a data set that we can kind of refer to for ideas throughout this presentation. But I have things plotted out in my work, my life, my blank to see how much effort I'm putting into them. The bigger dots represent how much effort or energy I have to put in that particular activity. The smaller dots mean lesser energy, lesser activity. They're on a scale of what's important versus what's urgent. So that's kind of what my life looks like on a daily basis. So that's managing everything I do at my job, managing a leadership team of over 60 people on the side for my nonprofit, making sure all those events run smoothly, making sure we're doing a good job for our attendees, making sure our marketing is in check, and everything like that, and then trying to figure out how to travel all over the world to speak at 30 conferences a year. And how do I do this? I'm just kidding. Do not actually have a time turner. If you've not seen Harry Potter, Hermione gets this time turner where she gets to go back in time and retake classes because she loves it. Killing me. I need where are my Pottermore nerds? Anyway, what I do have for you is I have a couple strategies that I've broken down into ways that I have tried to optimize my life so I can maximize the amount of time I have and be as efficient and be as productive as I want to manage my work-life blank balance. So we're going to talk through these. I'm going to talk about prioritizing. I'm going to talk about automating, balancing, finding tools and processes, recompensating, and finally, one of my favorite ones, working smarter, not harder. All right, so strategy number 1, prioritizing. Who gets into the office on a Monday morning? And you did have a somewhat relaxing weekend, but you look at your to-do list and your inbox is out of control and you're just panicking and you don't know how to start and you're so overwhelmed and so anxious and you just, yep, okay, thank you. Common feeling, we all get that where you're just so overwhelmed. And so it can be really powerful to actually figure out how to begin to prioritize your day and kind of take away a little bit of that anxiety just by figuring out how to start that off. There's this quote by Dwight Eisenhower: I have 2 kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent are not important and the important are never urgent. And so this quote has been taken to create what we call the Eisenhower matrix, which is a way that we can kind of look at everything that we have going on in our lives and everything we need to do and figure out a way to prioritize that. And so we're broken up into 4 quadrants here. The first quadrant, which is going to be in your top left, is the urgent and important quadrant. This is the quadrant of necessity, the things that need to get done. So when you come in on Monday morning and there's a fire in production and that needs to be handled, or there is some sort of issue in your team where somebody's having a conflict with their pull request and they just can't get it through, pressing problem. If there's a big project deadline or something like that that your focus needs to be on, that's going to be in this quadrant, as well as crises and emergencies, those things that you can't plan for that need all your attention and really need to get fixed now. So as you begin to look at your week, it is okay to assess what needs to be in this quadrant and then toss everything out of your mind. Then we're going to move over to the next quadrant, which is the important, but the not necessarily urgent. And this is the quadrant of quality and personal leadership. So these are things that you need to be doing on an ongoing basis to help build yourself, build your skills, and build your growth. But they're not necessarily deadline driven, right? So these might be things like planning or preparation, you taking time to figure out what your month is going to look like, whether you're using a Trello board or some sort of personal tracking system, taking that time to actually organize what you need to be working on. This is also going to be things like long-term deadline-driven items or self-improvement. Maybe you've got that book that you've been wanting to read and setting aside time for that. Those are the kind of things that are very, very important, but not necessarily urgent. So once you've solved your important and urgent items, you can move on to this quadrant. On that note of book reading, has anybody read Radical Candor? Couple hands. Add that one to your reading list. That is the most amazing book in the world. I recommend it to everybody, especially inside of a technology company. But that is definitely something that I put in my important but not urgent category. These books that I want to read to make me better as a leader, as a developer, as an engineer, as a professional. Okay, so 2 important quadrants to focus on, right? Now we're going to talk about this fun one, which is the urgent but not important. And this is the quadrant of deception, because like that quote says, the urgent problems are not necessarily important. And this is going to be things like interruptions, meetings, emails, requests, Slack notifications. Can anybody function when that little red dot is signaling you and your bot? Nope, nope, nope. Pro tip, you can mute those. Further pro tip, you can turn off Slack when you really need to focus. Blasphemy, right? But it's important to understand that these are things that are like mini time sucks that you might not realize. Like I might be working on something and get sucked into Slack drama and like getting rid of my notifications, and then it's 2 hours later, I'm like, shit, where did my day go? So be aware of these kind of deceptions and interruptions because they can really suck your time. And then finally, we have the quadrant of waste, and these are things like spending time watching TV, spending time on social media, spending time on Reddit. A lot of people will say you should never do things in this quadrant, and I think that is bullshit because that's not a healthy, balanced life, and we'll talk about that later. But I urge you to consider this, and feel free to take like photos or whatever you want of this presentation. But this is a really good strategy for beginning to prioritize everything you have going on and getting rid of just a little bit of that panic when you feel overwhelmed and just can't figure out where to start. Has anybody heard of the phrase, eat the frog first? Okay, this is one of my favorite ones, because you're like, Jennifer, why are you eating frogs? Like, why did Cerner ask you to come talk? Like, what is wrong with you? This is a quote by Mark Twain, that if you eat a live frog the first thing in the morning, nothing worse can happen to you the rest of the day. And again, like, why are you eating a frog? Okay, the frog is an analogy. Okay, the frog stands for the things you hate the most, the worst things that you're gonna have to deal with all day. For me, that is emails, like emails from my nonprofit, emails from clients, emails from like just dumb people who don't know how to communicate, that I have to spend so much emotional and mental energy figuring out how to respond to them in a kind and empathetic way. I hate emails. So what do? I eat them first thing in the day. I set aside the time in the morning of my day where I answer all my emails that have come in over the night and the evening, and then I deal with all that and I get it done, and all of a sudden I realize, hey, all my emails are done. I get to code the rest of the day. And for all my emails, if they are not important or something that's on fire, like I will just snooze them and deal with them later because I don't need to. And so it's really great to have this nice endorphin rush because you've done the worst possible thing that you're going to have to do all day. And now you get to do the things that are less worse or things that you're excited about doing. I talk about it being excited about coding a lot because I'm leading this new division, which means I'm having to do sales and marketing and management. And oh man, y'all, like I was trying to get a Twitter campaign launched and like could not get it to launch. It was giving me an error code. I'm Googling the error code. There's no support. And they're like, hey, for support, just message your Twitter bot. And I messaged the Twitter bot and I'm like, I need help with this. And it's like, choose from one of these options. And I'm like, that's not one of my options. And it's like, choose from one of these options. I'm like, customer support. And I lost and I cried and then I drank bourbon. But I do these awful things in the morning so I can look forward to writing code later in the day and not have to, oh man, I suck at marketing. Okay, So you're thinking, Jennifer, wait, I'm a very creative person sometimes, and I can't just prioritize my creativity. You might identify with a certain individual who just is a very creative genius and cannot be burdened. And I get that, because I'm the kind of person that I do a lot of speaking, I do a lot of blogging, I do a lot of creating content, and sometimes that inspirational hit where I'm having a conversation with a client, and they're like, well, how do you solve this problem? And I'm like, well, this is what I do. Let me find some resources for you. And then I realize they aren't any good, and I know I want to write a blog post or talk about that. Okay, so what I do is I have some way to document these creative thoughts as a placeholder. For me, that's normally Trello. Like, my entire life exists in Trello. And so I have some sort of system where, as I've perfectly prioritized my life and something happens where I'm inspired and want to do something but can't fit it in because it's not important and it's not urgent, I can have a placeholder to come back to that. On the note of having this perfectly prioritized life, because you are all now prioritizing experts, you have to be aware of Murphy's Law. Okay, so Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong. And I like to talk about this because I am a very type A personality, if you've not gathered that by now. I like process, I like order, I like making sure that I'm efficient as possible. But I'm also very well aware that my plans can go to shit in a heartbeat if I'm up against a wall twerking, my roommate comes home, and then my pants catch on fire. Pants on fire is an analogy, if you didn't catch that. One of the last times I gave this talk was at KCDC last year, and it was during the summer, and I gave it on Friday. I was like, yeah, awesome talk, and I get home, and I get in my house, and I'm like, oh my God, why is it so hot in here? And if you remember July last year, like, it was rough, right? Our AC unit had gone out. So all my weekend plans went out the door while I had to figure out how to get our AC unit fixed. So having this understanding that no matter how well you plan and how well you prioritize things, something will happen, something will come, something will blow your entire plan to shit, is a good mindset to be in, because then you can roll with the punches and understand that life happens. You can also be aware that life happens to everybody else around you. So when you have a teammate or somebody who's working with you who has a sick kid and they have to take off the day and deal with strep throat or whatever that may be, unforeseen chaos is in all our lives. And we can plan and we can do all these amazing things, but shit will happen, and as long as you're prepared and ready to deal with it, you'll be in a much better headspace to get everything that you want done. So if we look at my nice little chart, and what happens when I have some sort of home catastrophe, like my AC unit being out in the middle of July, you can kind of see how my priorities shift, and all of a sudden I've got this one really big thing to focus on. And so it's helpful to kind of look at this bird's eye view of everything you have going on in your life and understand how all these different factors in different parts of your life, whether it's your work, your life, or your blank, affect it. Conversely, this might be, okay, there's a fire at work, like, you know, somebody deleted the tables in production, and we have to go and like figure out how to get that back. All of a sudden, I'm going to have a work event that's probably going to supersede some of the things that I have going on in my life. So your life is in flex and in tandem, and we want to be thinking about all these things and keeping them in balance. Which brings us to strategy number 2, automating, like DevOps IRL. So this should feel pretty at home for a lot of you. But one of the first things I encourage people to do is auto-pay. Because one of the most important things you need to do is make sure that you're paying your bills and getting your taxes done to make sure that the government doesn't come after you and take your house, right? But who needs to be thinking about that on a daily basis? The more you can strategize around your payments and your budget and automate these things, the less worry you have to do. There's not going to be that monthly panic of, oh my gosh, did I pay the mortgage? Unless you're on the new Missouri gas and energy system, in which case like their auto pay feature is completely broken and it's 2019, which is beyond me. I'm like, how is this a problem? But this is a really great way. So you're not spending mental energy and emotional energy on worrying about paying bills because you've thought about that already, you've automated it, and you don't have to think about it again until you get that nice pay raise because you've gone away from this talk and have automated your life so well that they're like, oh man, that person has their shit together. We're going to give them more money. Okay, auto-communicate, and this is a big one for me because, as I told you, emails are the bane of my existence. I have to do a lot of communication, and so I tend to find strategies around how to make this process less painful. One of those ways is creating canned responses. This is a tutorial for Gmail. But you can actually, if you find yourself responding to similar emails over and over again, why would you not just do the work once and then have something framed and ready for you to use over and over again? Start to create canned responses and template your emails. If you are a bad speller, like I know very, very many developers are, there's actually extensions that you can use called Grammarly. They'll check your emails, they'll check, blog posts, anything you're doing. Like if you're trying to tweet and then you can't edit and you're like, oh, damn it, I got to delete my tweet because I had a typo. Grammarly can help you out. Really easy tools, and just this is all about automating, right? Having you spend less time thinking about doing these things and relying on tools that already exist to do them. Another pro tip, setting reminders for Slack notifications, because we talked about not dealing with those distractions and notifications, right? One of the things that's really powerful for me is setting snooze reminders on anything, whether it's a Slack notification or an email. It's important, but I need the mental headspace to get to it at a different point in time, so I snooze it until I know I will be able to deal with it. And then I also tell my team, if you don't hear from me, nag the shit out of me. Like, I promise I care about your issues. I'm just, like, dealing with a million things. You can also create to-dos for yourself and your team in Slack. I'm a big advocate of never having a meeting unless you're going to come out of that meeting with actionable items. So as you're talking, especially when meetings are happening asynchronously or in Slack, actually physically creating to-dos out of those meetings to make sure that work and those ideas are going to get captured is really, really important to being efficient. For everything else you could want to do, there are so many different automation tools. There's If This Then That, which has a lot of recipes that can help you automate all sorts of different things in your life. EmailPet and Zapier are also two of the big ones. I will link this presentation afterwards, by the way, so all these are different links you can click through and get more information about. All right, next up, auto-market yourself. And so if you're the kind of person who's interested in public speaking, interested in creating blogs, doing some sort of thought leadership, like that's a lot of time and energy that takes. So one of the first tips I have is to spend the time to craft a really good bio and get a headshot you love. Does anybody enjoy writing their own bio or like trying to figure out how to like write what they did well on a review? Like it's weird, right? You're like, I'm bragging about myself, this is awkward, it's weird. But if you spend the time to get a really good bio, like really well thought out, then you can just add minimal updates to it over time, like as your career changes or as you add little notches to your belt, and that can be really, really helpful, and then you never have to deal with it again. Use social media tools to manage your content. That's all I'm going to say because I, again, lost a fight with a Twitter support bot the other day, so I'm like just a jackass that tweets during The Bachelorette. But if you want to have a more professional curated Twitter experience, I would recommend social media tools to manage that content. You can also set up Google alerts for anything you're interested in, whether that's seeing news articles about your open source project or your company or your nonprofit. So for Kansas City Women in Technology, we like to record all the press we get. And so it's really easy to set up an alert notification. So anytime a news source or somebody posts a blog about attending one of our events, we can capture that event and then add it to our website. Auto-domesticate. Here's a fun one, because if you're like me, you hate cleaning the house or doing anything, but then you're also like a sim where you're only like really green and happy when your house is clean because like you can't think otherwise. So look into cleaning services, step one. You can actually find really affordable ones, just do not go to maids.com because they're incredibly overpriced. But if I look at the breakdown of not only like how much money I make as an engineer on an hourly basis, but the impact of my efforts with my work with Kansas City Women in Technology, or the impact of my efforts with the content I'm creating for talks, that time is so much more valuable than the time it would take me to dust my blinds. And I hate dusting. It's not my thing. And so for me, it really makes sense at this point in my life to have somebody else focus on doing that work. It's going to make me miserable. It's going to take time. I don't have the tolerance or the patience for it, so outsource that. Along those lines, it can be really helpful to tidy up as you go. If you haven't read the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, there's also a Netflix series, although some of the people on there are just painfully entitled and it's hard to watch. But it's this great idea of helping keep your space tidy more often. And if I can give you one pro tip from that book, stop saying yes to conference swag. You'll be amazed how much cleaner your house gets. And then you have to like figure out how to like not offend people. And they're like, here, you want our shirt? And you're like, no, I have like 20 conference t-shirts like from the last 2 months. No, thank you though. But this is a really great book to read to just kind of keep your life a little bit more on order in an ongoing basis. Also, outsourcing lawn care projects can be key. I live in Midtown, and so I have like this teeny tiny front yard, and then I'm on a 17-foot hill, and so there's literally no access from the front yard to the backyard. I don't even have a place to store a lawnmower to mow like a patch of lawn that is like literally less than the space right here. Outsource that shit. You can also look into trying a meal prep service. Obviously, y'all have kind of amazing food on here, so you don't have to worry about the lunch portion as much. That's taken care of. But for dinner or weekends, or maybe if you're trying to do more cooking at home, Blue Apron, HelloFresh, and Marley Spoon are all really great options. I've tried them before. They actually don't lie. I was really done with dinner in 30 minutes or less. It was very impressive. And then finally, get the maintenance items shipped to you. I have not been to a Target in like 8 months, 12 months. Like, I don't remember the last time I went to a Target. Because like we literally get everything we know we're gonna need shipped to us. Toilet paper arrives regularly. Paper towels arrive regularly. I get my dog food, my cat litter shipped through Chewy.com and Pretty Litter. These are things that I never have to think about going out to the store and dealing with traffic and dealing with lines. So that is that much time I get back in my life to do the things that matter because I've already automated these other parts of my life and I never have to think about them or spend time dealing with them. Super awesome. So if we, again, look at my nice little chart, which is kind of awkwardly cut off on this screen, and I'm not sure why. You can see actually, you can't really see really well because the screen is light. But you can see the level of effort I'm spending on a lot of these areas in my life is going down a lot. So if we look at that in a different format, the red, again, is my life. And so when I'm spending that much less time on things that I need to be doing in my life category, I get that much time back to do the things I care about, whether that's my work, whether that's my passion project, my blank area. So if you're thinking and wondering like, oh my gosh, like where did my day go? Why am I not getting things done? Think about all these things you can automate in your life. Big picture here, spending your time and energy on implementing the ideas and solving the big problems is key. You want to find the redundancies in your life, the things that you have to deal with all the time that don't require that much mental energy, and figure out a way to optimize them. Here's the truth. We all have the exact same 24 hours in a day. What really matters is how well you use those 24 hours. Nobody has a time turner, as far as I know of. So if you can be as efficient as you can in every single hour of your day, you get that much more time back to do the things that you care about. All right, let's talk about something on the completely opposite side of all this hustling, which is finding balance. And I like to talk about this because in the technology industry, burnout is real. We are working all the time. That is the industry standard. And so we need to understand that for as much as we're doing, we need to make sure that we're aware of how that impacts us and impacts our health. So there was an awesome talk on deadlifting earlier, the lightning talks. Super cool. I like to lift weights too, so it's fun to see content like that. But if you've ever worked out, there is this equation, and it's stress plus rest equals growth. So if you don't know how muscles grow, essentially when you're doing exercises, like maybe you're doing bicep curls or something like that, what you're doing is you're ripping those muscles apart, okay, as you're doing that exercise. And then as your body rests, those muscles are being rebuilt, and the fibers are coming back, and that's how they're growing. And so that's how muscle growth happens. But the important thing to understand is rest is a huge part of that equation. It is the exact same for everything else in our lives. One of the things I like to talk about is what's called the cycle of competence, because I feel like it plays into here really well. How many people are in like the Dev training program? Wait, what's it called again? Dev Academy. How many Dev Academy people here? All right. So y'all probably feel a little bit like you're in the unconscious incompetence quadrant all the time, where you don't know what you don't know. You just don't even have the context to solve a problem. You don't even know what to Google for to figure out like what to do. You're like, okay, I have a for loop. What else do I need here? So this is where you don't know what you don't know, and this is a great time for discovery. This is when you need to be going to technical conferences and on Twitter and following thought leaders to kind of find out what you don't know and learn how to fill in those gaps. Once you're there, you move into the quadrant of conscious incompetence, which is you do know what you don't know, but you lack the skills to do it. So you're aware of the tools that you need, and you know what to Google. You're just figuring out how to put these things all together. And so this is where you want to be learning, really practicing your skills, and figuring out how to implement the things you want. Once you begin to get a little more expertise, you're going to move into the quadrant of conscious competence, which is you do know what you know, and you know exactly what it takes to do it, but it's not necessarily easy. Like you're aware, you're understanding, but it takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more energy. And then finally, you move into the quadrant of unconscious competence. You don't know what you do know. You do it so naturally that it doesn't require any focus. How many JavaScript kids do I have in here? Okay, a couple. How many have a thorough understanding of this? Okay. I like to make this joke because like understanding this in JavaScript is just like, ah! And you're just so frustrated and you're stuck in this quadrant forever where you're like, I know I need this thing, but it's this, and this is this, but this is also that, and I don't understand. And Eventually, I promise it'll happen, you're going to move into the quadrant of unconscious competence, where you use this like anything, and you're like, oh, apply, I know exactly what this is. Oh, context, I've got this. And so you eventually will get to the point in your understanding and your knowledge that you just do it naturally. It's so easy to you that you don't even realize it's difficult for other people. And so this is really important to understand, because as developers, we are constantly going through this cycle, right? And it can be really, really frustrating if you feel just incompetent all the time and you don't know and your pull reviews aren't getting passed, or like, oh, you should have written this better. And it's really easy to get down on yourself. But the other thing to think about is when you're in that quadrant of unconscious competence, it's so easy and it's so basic to you that you're no longer learning. And so it's very much okay, in my opinion, to constantly go throughout this cycle in your career. We're developers, we're engineers, we love building, we love creating, we love learning. Embrace this cycle, learn new things, but be okay and be aware of wherever you are in this cycle, and it's okay. Because you're learning and you're resting in between, and that's how you're creating growth. There's more information about the stress equation, or stress growth equation, at that link that kind of goes a little bit more in depth. All right, next thing. Let's talk about balance and getting enough sleep. You may not realize this, but this is actually how your immune system recovers, and this is not like fake. I promise you, senior year of high school, Halo 2 had been out for like 6 months, and I was playing that shit until like 4 a.m. every morning, and then like showering, and then waking up to go to marching band practice at 6 a.m. I had a case of strep throat turn into mono because I had completely eradicated my immune system, and it was just a disaster. Like, I passed out during my Spanish AP test and slept through the whole thing. So I promise it's real, it happens, I've lived it. Sleep is important. Get your sleep. You will not be as good as at your job or your life or anything else you want to do unless you are getting enough sleep. Sleep does aid in hunger management, having your body in a routine cycle. This is healthy and it is good for you. This is also where memory is created. So you're forming these connections during the day, but when you're sleeping, that's when your body is doing a lot of restorative and connective work, and so that's really how those memories are made. So be aware of that. How to get enough sleep is an entirely different story, right? Anybody have newborn small children in here? I have no advice for you. I'm sorry. You're screwed. Like, you know, I've been asked this question before. They're like, how do you do this with children? I'm like, I'm sorry, you don't. But once you are past that, things you can think about doing. Using a fitness tracker to monitor or understand your sleep. Sometimes you might be sleeping, but you might not actually be getting the deep sleep that your body needs. And so fitness trackers are really good at using this and understanding this, so you can have a better context of the sleep you're actually getting. Avoid stimulants and light before bed. I know you'll hate me for this, because I know you're on your phone and you're scrolling through Twitter or Instagram or Reddit or whatever, but that is actually very distracting and very jarring for your body. So the less of that you can do before going to bed, the better your sleep will be and the more quickly you can get to sleep. If you're like me, I am always going a million miles an hour, and I have like ideas and thoughts and blog posts I want to write and things I want to do and the emails I need to send tomorrow, and it's just like this nonstop chatter, and heaven forbid, like I said something awkward in a conversation earlier that day because I'm a huge introvert, and I'm like, oh my God, why did I say that, Jennifer? Fuck, God, why was that so awkward? Like, this is the stuff that keeps you up. And so something that's really pragmatic for me is to use audiobooks, especially an audiobook that I have heard a million times before with a good narrator, like a really soothing voice. The words give me something to focus on, but I've heard it a million times, so it's not like the plot, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I know exactly what's going to happen, but it's something that I can focus on to take that chatter in my brain down, and it really works, so I would encourage you to try it. There are also a lot of really great apps and music and white noise generators. You can download them on Alexa, you can download them on your phone, on your laptop, all sorts of things that can create a better sleeping environment for you. Again, if you have kids, I'm sorry, like there's no tuning that out. Yes. Who relates to our little friend popping up in the window? Yeah, okay. Some of us are morning people. Some of us are not. That is okay. Unfortunately, the workforce has not caught up with this idea that maybe everybody is not the most functional between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., but we're getting there, I promise. But it's important to be aware of your productive hours and what your body like works with best. You don't need to force yourself to be on somebody else's timeline. Well, great, okay. Be respectful to your teammates and their timeline, but do not feel like because you're a night owl or because you're an early bird, you're not as good at things, excuse me. Just be aware and know your productive hours. That way you can take those productive hours and do the things that are most hard or most difficult or require the most energy in those productive hours. For me, I'm really, really good at about like 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. That is like my happy window. So if I know I've got stuff that is going to take me a lot of mental or emotional energy, like there might be like some sort of code problem I'm working on that I'm really struggling with, or maybe there's just some crap emails I don't want to deal with, I slate for that time that I know I'm going to be most productive and my brain is going to be most on fire. So if you can be aware and listen to yourself and understand what your productive hours are and slate your activities based on that, you'll be a lot more productive and better at what you do. On that note, I would like to harp about working out and how important this is for your body. If you work out 1 hour a day, that is 4% of your day. That's it, 4%. Just for an hour workout. And it doesn't have to be any crazy. You don't have to be lifting like, was it 1,000 pounds in the deadlift? Jesus, I can't even think about that. But it's really not that much of a day for something that is so beneficial for your body. We can look at this brain study here, and this is kind of cool. Obviously, the one on the left is a brain just sitting there quietly, maybe meditating, something like that. The brain on the right is after a 20-minute walk. That is how much more your brain is engaged after your body is doing some sort of activity. And for a job that requires basically mostly our brain, like that's our power tool, like that's what we use to work with, right? Why would you not do anything in your power, anything and everything to optimize your brain and how well it performs? Start walking, get out, get active, it'll be better for your body. It's also really great, like if I'm struggling, just go to the gym, on a treadmill. And it's really funny because I can't have my fingers on a keyboard, right? So it forces me to think more abstractly about those problems. And 9 times out of 10, I walk out of the gym like racing home to write the code that I figured out just by getting away from my keyboard and spending some time thinking it out on a treadmill. So this is really, really, it works. Try it out. Okay. Another part of balancing is learning how to say no. This is a dance called West Coast Swing that I used to dance competitively a couple years ago. And I loved it. Oh my gosh, West Coast Swing is such an interesting, creative, just awesome dance. This is all, well, that routine is a routine, but this is a very improvisational dance. When I used to compete all over the country, I ran into a ton of software engineers who liked this. But right when I started, getting more into competitions was when I launched my nonprofit. I was trying to buy a house. My career was taking off in a different way. There were a lot of things that I was very passionate about in my life, and that meant I had to say no to some things. It doesn't mean it'll be no forever. Like I hope to get to a point that I can go back and start dancing West Coast again, but it's okay to say no to things, and sometimes you have to prioritize what really matters to you. This also means saying no to people and toxic relationships. One of my favorite quotes is, do not set yourself on fire to keep somebody else warm. I tell this a lot to the Casey Witt leadership team because we do all this like free work for people and sometimes people take advantage and it's okay to set boundaries. But it's kind of amazing if you have toxic people in your life, how much mental energy they suck away from you. Like, I don't know if you've ever gotten into an argument with a partner or a friend, but like when that happens to me, I cannot focus on work. I'm too frustrated or upset or unhappy. And if people are really that negative in your life, they're not people who are good for you or good to be around, it's okay to cut them out. And this means family too. Like just because you're blood related to somebody does not mean you are their verbal punching bag. Like there are people in my family that I don't tolerate verbal abuse. It's not something I have in my life, and it is completely okay for you to set boundaries for yourself and not have toxic relationships, because those relationships are going to suck the life out of you, and you will not be able to spend as much time and as much energy doing the things you care about. This is kind of blasphemous, but did you know you can turn off push notifications? Yeah? Do you know you can do that on weekends? It's going to be okay. Work will be there on Monday. Like making sure there are no like red dots on me from like anybody at the executive level being like, oh man, what's this bitch saying? But no, seriously, this is something that I harass my husband about because like we'll be out at brunch, we'll be having a good time, and he'll see a Slack notification from work and it's somebody's architected something in a way that's pissed him off, and then he's in a bad mood. It's like, okay, you can't do anything about it right now. The problem will be there on Monday. It is completely okay to not be in this constant connected state all the time. Smell the roses or the pollen that we're having right now. But seriously, try turning off push notifications just for a weekend. If you're not on call, turn it off, see what it does for you. In a similar vein, get off social media if this is what you're doing. Because as we all know, social media people love to brag and they love to show you their best life. Hashtag living my best life. But it's also really easy to start to compare yourselves to these people, and especially thought leaders in the industry, and start to think about yourself, why am I not that smart? Why am I not that good of a developer? And this is a really toxic mindset to get into. So you need to not be on social media if that's the kind of thing you're doing and feeling bad about yourself based on what other people are doing, and that is perfectly okay. When it comes to criticism, because as you're becoming a better developer, a better leader, a better human, people are going to criticize. They might not always do so gracefully. This is one of the most important skills you can take to get better as a person, not let criticism destroy you and prevent you from being better, it's to take it seriously but not personally. If there's truth or merit to the criticism, try to learn from it. Otherwise, let it roll right off you. A story here from my nonprofit. We had a woman on the team, and she was not doing a good job. She was bailing on events last minute, no call, no showing board meetings, and then even worse, would get really passive aggressive in Slack when we were referencing something that was in the meeting that she missed and also in the meeting minutes that she didn't read. So it was just becoming really toxic and wasn't responding to team members' emails, and it was definitely getting to be a problem. And so we were having a leadership meeting. We were all sitting in a room together, all had our laptops out at the meeting notes, and she sends an email right in this middle of this meeting that she no called, no showed. And it's 4 paragraphs of why I am the shittiest human being in the world. About how I'm just a crap person, I'm a crap leader, I am a crap feminist, and just all this awful stuff. Granted, a lot of this was her trying to like point the finger at me so other people didn't notice like the way she was not doing her job. But there were a lot of things in there that like once I dealt with the blow and kind of felt like shit about myself for a good week, could go back and read that email and start to like pick out the little things. Okay, well, I'm not sure what her context was here, there, but clearly I did something that led her down this path of feeling this way about me. What can I do in the future to make sure that I don't let this problem happen again? I am not a perfect person. I am a very fallible human being. But learning how to take that criticism, unmerited and merited, and find the pieces in it that can help me improve is one of the most important skills I have been able to build as a leader, as a developer, as a human being. And it helps me sleep a lot better at night too, knowing that, okay, I'm not perfect, I'm not psychic, but as long as I'm taking that feedback and figuring out how to not make the same mistake again, that's all I can do as a human. So that means it's okay to give yourself a break. We all screw up. And especially in the times we live in where, you know, there's a big Me Too movement and we're advocating for diversity more, sometimes we say things that are not inclusive to people or that are not thoughtful or not empathetic. And it's okay because you are not psychic. There is no possible way that you can understand the way your words will impact every human being in the world. But if you do make a mistake, be open to it, be aware, be understanding that we all have different interactions, and figure out a way to be better moving forward. That's all we can ask of ourselves. More into that, let's talk about self-care. And I love this article because like we have this weird idea of self-care and it's like going on vacation or it's taking a bubble bath or having a cheat meal or something like that. But real self-care is not all of that. It is building a life that you don't need to escape from. If you feel like you're having to go on vacation or get to the other side of the world to get away from work, to get away from your life, you're not living a self-care life. You need to be thinking about the things that are causing you harm or causing you to lack energy on a daily basis and understand how to create a life that you don't feel like you need to escape from. Because that is how we're going to avoid burnout. That is how we are going to be better humans. That is how we are going to be better developers, is by building a life that we are happy with all the time that we don't need to run away from. I cannot stress that enough. A big part of this is identifying and minimizing stressors. This is like one of my favorite scenes from the movie Airplane where they're like, oh, stressful landing, and he like unplugs the light strip and he's like, oh, just kidding. Travel stresses me out. Again, I'm a type A person, like I have to be there, like I have my TSA pre-check, I have to be there early because like, oh my gosh, what if all the passengers get early and they decide to take off the plane early and shut the doors early and I'm not there and oh my God, panic. I just get there earlier than I need to, and I don't have any of that stress or drama. I pop open my laptop. Most airports have decent Wi-Fi now, and I continue working, and I don't have the stress. So that's a big thing I do for myself for balance and for self-care is just figuring out those things that stress me in my life and figuring out ways to minimize them. That leads us into this idea of using tools and processes to figure out how to continue to hacking our work-life blank balance. This idea of hacking a work-life blank balance is a process. A lot of what I'm talking right now is what works for me based on my situation. What I hope you take away from this is this idea and this concept and looking at your life and figuring out ways you can optimize it, and you can automate it, and find balance and find processes that'll help you do what you want to do better. Do your job better, be a better leader, you know, whatever your passion project is. Be a better rock climber, because I'm on that tangent right now. It is a process. For me, this means using Trello for everything, but that doesn't work for everybody. So I encourage you to explore different tools and figure out what works for you. Maybe that's just a notepad file on your computer. Maybe you just chat with yourself on Slack and that's how you keep all your reminders. But find something, like spend the time prioritizing, figuring out how you can automate and make your life better and record things. Calendar and email hacks, because I feel like everybody needs to get better at calendaring and emailing, if not for our sanity. I swear, one day I'm going to submit a lightning talk on like reply versus reply all and like how you should use them. Couple chuckles, okay. So first of all, if it exists, block it off on your calendar. Like the second you talk about it, the second you talk about scheduling a meeting with somebody or need to do something, put it on your calendar. Block out work hours for yourself on your calendar. Pro tip, if you have people who try and schedule you for meetings and you want to get work done, they'll see a block on your calendar and they'll leave you alone. In most cases. But it does work. Share calendars between family members. Me speaking all over the world, like I just don't have time to like answer a text message from my mother like every so often where she plays 20 questions. Where are you in the world? When's your flight? When's this? When's that? When's that? I'm like, Mom, here's my calendar. All my flight information is here. If I go down over the Atlantic, you'll know what my plane number is. It'll be fine. Use reminders to do an email snooze features. I'm still super mad at Google for killing inbox. Like, frustrates the hell out of me. But the Gmail snooze feature is okay. It's not as good, but these are really, really helpful to keep you on top of everything you need. Has anybody heard of Calendly? Yeah, this is the best thing in the world. This is about as close as you can get to a personal secretary. So for me, I have to take a lot of coffee meetings for clients for my nonprofit, for my day job. For my nonprofit, I want to be always available for my leadership team members. And I hate that ping-ponging back and forth. Hey, does this day work for you? No, that day doesn't work for you. No, this time doesn't work for you. There's so much back and forth in that email communication. With this Calendly tool, it syncs up to your calendar and people can just book time with you. It's magic. You send one email. Here's a link to my Calendly. Boom, scheduled. Awesome, automated. It's fantastic. So absolutely look into this tool. Speaking of emails, if you are a person who struggles with emails and communications, the best thing you can do if you want a response is to email with a call to action and a deadline. Email, status update, whatever. Please give me X by XYZ date. It's amazing how much your responses will go up there. Format your dates to be easy to remember if you're somebody who has struggled with team members not remembering a meeting or when an event is scheduled or some sort of awesome tech talk that might be happening. If you can put your date in a format of the week, the day, the date, and the time zone, you'll really help eliminate a lot of things there. Make your emails easy to read, use lists, call out important information. Line breaks are your friend. Make it easy for people to read and you will get much better responses to your email. Let's talk about adulting hacks. Adulting is rough. First of all, getting into meal prepping is key. You're going to spend a lot less time and a lot less money and a lot less energy, and then you won't be having that argument at 7 o'clock at night with your partner where you're like, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? And then like it's 9 o'clock, you haven't eaten, you're about ready to murder each other because you're so hungry. Is that just my house? Okay, right? I get hangry and it's bad, but meal prepping can really help out with this. Another thing to do is avoid busy times for doctor appointments, car repair, and DMV. Schedule your doctor's appointment the first appointment of the day when you can get it, because nobody has had a chance to get in there and like screw up the scheduling so you can get in and out instead of like waiting 45 minutes to see your gynecologist who like pokes for 2 minutes and then it's like, bye, see you next year. Really key to do. Car repair, look for those not busy times. A lot of times Tuesdays are really great. And then the DMV, because everybody dreads the DMV, go in the middle of the month. People are always going to be rushing to get in the beginning of the month or the end of the month. The middle is the time where nobody is panicking and trying to get there. That's your best time to save time. Run your errands when parents will be picking kids up for school. The grocery aisles are empty. There are no carts in the way while they're chasing some miscreant around. It's amazing. And use order and pickup services when available. A lot of the grocery stores and places are doing this where you can order your items online, go pick them up, get them immediately. You're on your merry way without dealing with lines or customer service or any sort of drama. If that's not quite enough to help you adult more, you can get an accountability buddy. Maybe you want to work out more. Maybe you want to do more blogging. It's fine to find somebody like this. If you're lame and have no friends, here's an if this and that recipe to create your own accountability buddy in Slack. Thank you, laughs. And finally, train your brain to go into focus mode. And I feel like this is really important because there's some times where we're just, no matter how hard we try, we're scattered and we just can't focus. So there are a lot of things you can do here. I really like to use music, particularly video game soundtracks. Those are built to help you concentrate and help you focus without distracting. So those can be really key. So I have a lot of great ones listed here. The only thing to not do is a video game soundtrack that will give you nostalgia and then you're drunk on Amazon Prime ordering Donkey Kong 64 like 6 hours later. Not a true story or anything, but music can be really helpful. If you need something more than that, there are a whole bunch of great distraction tools. I really like momentum. So my bad habit is, I'm in incognito mode, so it's not going to pop up. But I am a really bad habit of like running a unit test or running a build, and then I'll just, Control-T and like pop up in a new tab to see what's going on in Twitter. And then like 3 hours later, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about my build. So one of the things I do is momentum, and it pops up this really nice screen, and it's like, hi, Jennifer. What are your goals for the day? And I'm like, oh yeah, thank you, momentum. I'm going to get my shit together and get back to work. If that's not quite enough for you, we've got Noisely and Forest, which are kind of like Pomodoro timers. Forest, you plant a little tree, and then if you go to any of your blacklisted sites, you kill your tree. Do you want to kill your tree? No, don't kill your tree. So that can be a really fun tool. And then if you're like, screw the planet, I don't care, you can use Stay Focused, which will literally block out all the sites and you can't get to anything to distract you. Okay, let's talk about recompensating because I am running low on time and even lower on battery power. Recompensating is really important. It means paying or giving restitution for. So all this work we're doing to automate and spend so much more time doing so much more awesome things, we need to make sure we're giving ourselves a break. Burnout, it's real. Like, we are working insane weeks and we cannot do this forever. It is not tangible for us to work as many hours as we do and not give ourselves a break. That is how you end up just stressed out or having some sort of mental breakdown. So first of all, get yourself a hobby. And again, this is not a passion project. This is something you do simply to bring you joy, whether that's knitting, whether that's drinking bourbon and talking shit, playing Halo online, I don't know. Have guilty pleasures and don't feel guilty about them. I watch The Bachelorette. I don't care what you think. It's trashy. I love it. It's my thing. Like, I look forward to it every week, and that's okay. Nobody will shame me for it because I don't care. It's okay to have those things you love and prioritize time for them. It's okay to plan things to look forward to. I went with some tech girlfriends to RuPaul's Drag Con, which is a conference for drag queens. It was amazing. It's okay to schedule your social life. I'm an introvert, so I really like meaningful one-on-one conversations. I schedule cocktails with girlfriends routinely. That's how I do it. If you're an extrovert, this might mean scheduling parties or getting a group into rec sports or doing group outings and all sorts of things. But it's completely okay to prioritize your social life. It's also okay to take your birthday off. You're amazing. Celebrate your damn self. And finally, learning to work smarter, not harder is key. Because you have to understand, just because you're doing the work or doing everything well does not mean you're going to get recognition for doing the work. We do not live in a perfect world. You can work your ass off, and if the right people don't see it, it doesn't mean shit. I'm sorry. So it's really important to be aware of this and understand that you have to promote and you have to advocate for yourself if you're going to do the work. You also need to remove the word should from your vocabulary. Because if you've ever gone to a situation, you're like, well, they should have known. I wanted to be on this feature. My boss should have known that. I've been doing really well. They should have known better. Sweetie, the world does not revolve around you. You need to advocate for yourself. You cannot be focused on how things should be. You need to be focused on how things are and taking action based on that. You need to understand that you are entitled to nothing. Just because you're doing the work does not mean you deserve anything. Learn to advocate for yourself. Learn to step up. Be kind. Be empathetic. Be good to other people. And finally, expect failure, because you will fail. I fail. I get in fights with Twitter bots. It's awesome. But that's okay, because it's part of the process. It's part of learning and part of growing and part of being human. As long as you're learning from your mistakes, like I said earlier, that's all that really matters. Fail over and over again, just not at the same thing. And this is how you're going to make plans to take over the world. You're going to take all these steps. You're going to prioritize. You're going to automate. You're going to balance. You're going to find tools. You're going to recompensate. And you're going to work smarter and not harder. That's how you're going to get this. You're going to have your shiny work-life blank balance. Everything's going to be awesome. You're going to have more hours in your day. You're going to be more passionate, more excited, spending more time with the people you love, and running out of battery power. So if you have any questions, we have like 3 minutes. If you would like to take a photo, this is where the slides are hosted at. If you like the pre-talk jams, that is listed there as well.